Starting at 7:02 p.m. Wednesday, November 9th. This meeting of the Bridgewater Finance Committee is called to order. Our first order of business is the approval of the past meeting minutes. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a look at them. Any questions, comments, motion?
Motion to approve, Chris.
All right, thank you,
Second.
Chris. Thank you. If you could do a roll call, please, Josh.
Nate,
Aye.
I think Eric just joined, but Eric, we're voting on the minutes if you want to abstain.
Will do.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie,
Sorry, aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to our next order of business, which is public comments. I would ask if there is any public comment that you state your name and your street address for the public record. Do we have any public comment this evening? Public comments, one last time. Okay, not hearing any. We will move on to new business. First order of business is FY 23-026. Transfer order townhouse roof project. I'm assuming this is the old town hall, Tony, right?
They are now referring to the building as the townhouse, yes.
Okay. Thank you. And I do see that they're requesting the UCPC funds here. That's the Community Preservation Act
Mhm.
monies. And the Community Preservation Committee has given their approval. I do see that one little thing that's in here is they were unsure about the insulation, if that would fall under the CPA. Is that correct, Tony? Is that how I'm reading that?
Yeah, spoke with Carlton, that it is covered.
It is covered. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else you can think to add, Tony, to this?
No, I think it's self-explanatory, the work that's gonna be done and how it's gonna be funded. Unless there's questions.
Any questions, comments from the committee on this?
Motion to approve?
All right. Thank you, MJ.
Second.
Second from Chris. Thank you, Chris. Josh, if we could do a roll call.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on, FY 23-027, fiscal year 2023 classification tax allocation, adoption of the residential factor. Tony, I don't think we have anybody here that maybe hasn't been in this discussion before, but maybe if you can just give us a quick, brief overview of this.
Some municipalities, some cities have what's referred to as a split tax rate, meaning they have a different factor tax rate for industrial commercial than they do residential. Since I've been here and prior to, I think the number of years prior to me coming on board, I'm on my 8th year now, the town has adopted a single tax rate with a factor of 1, which means commercial, industrial, residential, personal property are all taxed at one rate. There's no distinction made. The thought process has been is Bridgewater wants to, one of the ways to attract businesses is either offering up certain what they refer to tax incentive financing, which is a way to modify what their tax liability is. The town of Bridgewater has not adopted that as a practice because their tax rate for businesses compared to the surrounding towns is that which is the residential, and therefore where communities do have a tax rate for commercial and industrial, it's higher. So the short answer is we have adopted a flat tax rate, same tax rate for all 4 groups I described. And the recommendation by the assessor through me and through the Board of Assessors, and then through the town council is one tax rate with a factor of 1.
Okay, thank you, Tony, for that brief
I don't know if
explanation.
that helps or hinders. Shelley will be more than happy to come in and go over that when she's going to present to council her annual presentation.
Right,
If
and
you
this is-
had a meeting prior to that.
There's a couple of towns around here that do have a higher commercial rate than their residential, Raynham being one, right? Am I correct in that?
That is correct. They have a very large commercial base.
They do. I mean, anybody that's driven down 138 or 44 can see why they can do that split rate. There's already a lot of business there, and I believe the city of Brockton too.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
know that I have talked to business owners here in town that have come to town, and the fact that, we do have a single rate makes us competitive, or at least puts us in the same ballpark as most of the other towns around us.
Mhm.
Is that correct thought process, Tony?
Yes, that's the thought process, and the biggest area that's been developed is the Elm Street area. And that has to do with, again, it's got close proximity to 24. Rainham has a close proximity to 24, 495, Route 44. So your point is well taken.
Does anybody have any questions, comments for Tony, or thoughts on this?
Can you help explain what residential factor of 1 means?
Means it's the same factor for residential as it will be for commercial, industrial, and there's no distinction. It
Okay.
could be less than 1 in relationship to commercial, industrial, or personal property.
Okay, thank you.
Tony,
Go ahead,
Right.
Ray.
your, the forecast that's been done, how does this or will this impact residents if we're, let me back up a little, I'm sorry. I guess my understanding is that this is to offer tax breaks to businesses, right?
No, what I'm saying, the benefit of us not having a split tax rate, and the
Yeah.
town has done it for as long as I can remember, and Eric, you were on the finance committee before I came on board, so maybe you can speak to it. The town has opted to have a single tax rate, and they didn't want to deter businesses from coming into the town was one of the thought processes that they had. Plus, there was only a small tax base for commercial property in the town. So it's always been the factor, and it is in all my projections, that factor.
Yeah, Greg, I'll just expand on that for half a second. The discussion would really be more, do we want to, normally when we talk about the tax rate, it's, do you want to charge commercial real estate more, right?
Mhm.
Which
Mhm.
makes it less attractive for commercial real estate to come to Bridgewater. And since we don't have a huge commercial real estate basis to begin with, we've always kept it at 1, so that as we do try to expand to commercial opportunities, it's attractive compared to the towns around us. So to Nate's point, if they were to go to Brockton or Rainham, which have a huge commercial base already, they pay a little bit more than they would in Bridgewater. So Bridgewater would be a little bit more attractive. That's the discussion anyway, and that's why we've always kept it at 1. So.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. I guess my thought process is, and I certainly understand, what's been said. My thought process is, let's just say hypothetically speaking, an organization, a business, a commercial business comes into town, they set up shop, they're doing really well. And obviously, they'll be at a, the tax rate would not fluctuate, right? But I'm just trying to understand, or I'm just trying to visualize numbers wise, how does that fully benefit the town? maybe I'm not framing my question correctly. I'm just gonna withdraw my question. I apologize. I have it in my head. I'm just not framing it correctly. So I apologize. I'm just gonna withdraw it.
Rick, if I can give you one other perspective that might help, the 85% of the valuation in the town of Bridgewater is for residential. The cost to provide services to the residential typically is greater than the cost to provide services to a business operation. They don't have students that go to the school. They typically don't have the number of calls to our emergency response. So there's a good reasoning behind having a single tax rate as well. If we were 50% or 40% value on commercial, industrial, and personal property, the town might want to shift some of the tax burden to the businesses. The town has chosen not to shift more of the tax burden to the businesses.
That was helpful. Thank you, Tony.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just Tony, keep me honest. We vote on this every year, so this is not a, if we vote it this year, we can't change it next year. If
Every year.
Yeah, if we have a significant increase and we do want to change it at some point, we
Mhm.
have every right to.
Mhm.
It's a year-to-year decision.
Mhm. That's correct.
A very good point, Eric. Thank you. All right, anybody else? Any thoughts, comments, questions?
Motion to approve. Chris?
Second,
Thank you, Chris. Who's that second? Susie, right?
and it was me.
Oh, MJ, thank you.
Sorry.
Josh, if you could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to our next order of business, FY 23-028, acceptance of a gift from Bridgewater State University. Tony, is this a different number than last year, in the past years?
Yeah, the number has changed over the last several years. It's gone down. This is the lowest amount in total that I can remember. I'd have to pull up and I can pull up and see what the gifts monies have been, but I know it's significantly less than 3 or 4 years ago. We were in the 160 some odd thousands. If I recall, last time it was 66,000 per the 3. That's about 200 and some odd thousand we got, let's say 5-6 years ago.
Do we have any idea why it's less?
Because they're granting it as a gift, and this is what they think they can afford right now.
All right, and I
So-
seem to remember last year that MJ made a motion that the town manager asked for an increase in the
Mhm.
amount that they give the town.
The town manager has a series of conversations and works closely with the BSU, and I think you noticed there've been some other there've been some highway projects where they have assisted with some costs for some of the public ways that intersect the school. There's been some considerable money spent there. They may be taking that into consideration, but I can tell you the town manager certainly looks to request that which the BSU can afford and are willing to offer diplomatically.
I have to admit, I'm gravely concerned, just to throw this out here, Mr. Chairman, and to you, Tony. I appreciate that Mr. Dutton has been trying to work closely with Mr. Clark. And I get that they've been collaborating on trying to get those road projects done, but does anybody know right now if more land has been procured by BSU to take off the tax rolls? Because proportionally, my big concern is the more property that they've either improved upon or taken off the tax rolls, they've managed to lower the amount that they've been giving us. And we've been increasing the amount of services that we've had to provide to the school. As that population has grown, they have needed more police and fire services. Yes, they have their own police department on campus, but sometimes they have to call out for outside help from our department for mutual aid. And
So
I'm
can I,
trying,
do you got a question in there you'd like me to answer?
I do. At what point does the amount of funding that they're giving us as a gift, which I appreciate, become limiting in how the town can spend it on our first responders or services to provide to the university, which is a serious, component of our community that is using resources, but proportionally, this amount seems small. I know this has been an issue for decades. I went to selectmen's meetings where one guy actually even said, this is peanuts. And now that you're saying that this is the lowest, I'm just concerned there needs to be more conversation. Is there any way we as a finance committee could ask you, Tony, to ask Michael to try to, I don't know, bring other, I guess, more diplomatic resources to bear to try to convince BSU, which is one of the best schools in the state and one of the highest priced, to at least give us a little more than $55,000. That's barely enough to fund one position in one of our departments for
So
like
here-
a meeting
so-
rating manager.
Yeah, so to try to answer some of the questions and a point you're making. Number one, it is a gift. And we have, I strongly suggest we look at it as a gift. And we separate it from the cost of services. We have been able to fund through the operations and surpluses that we've been able to fund and staff and equip our fire and our ambulance and our police apparatus, because this is typically what these monies are used for. They're used for capital items. We are in good standing with that capital equipment, and we feel we have the revenue source to support that. As far as additional land and development, there's nothing that I know of that has occurred over the last few years. The expansion and building that was done probably the first 3 or 4 years I was here back in 2015 to 19. There was a lot of growth going on at the BSU. They haven't taken land, additional land from the town. There's been no situation that I'm aware of that they have taken land that was the towns and rights of the towns under their jurisdiction. We do get funds from the state for payment in lieu of taxes for the properties that the state or state agencies oversee. We do receive as part of our local aid payment in lieu of taxes. So there is some other funding mechanism. So there's no additional properties that I'm aware of that they've expanded onto, and I know of no plans to expand. The revenues that they've given us in the past have all gone to capital equipment. I would say we're in a very good situation with our capital equipment right now. And I think by the end of 23, 24, we will be in a position with all our capital equipment for our public safety. And I think the town manager has done everything he can diplomatically and fairly with in the context of this is a gift, and we are willing, and he is willing to accept the gift as presented. Would he have wanted more? Most certainly. Is he appreciative of what we're getting here? Most certainly.
And just to follow up, do we see an end game where they just outright stop this altogether?
Don't see that.
Okay.
I
No
just want
further
to chime in.
questions, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Andrew. No, I certainly hear, both points of views. I think the relationship aspect of it is the fact that we're in good standing. I can only imagine that if perhaps we needed BSU's additional support from BSU's, I'm hoping the relationship part of it, that mutual relationship we have with them, that good standing relationship would certainly put them in a different light in terms of if we needed to tap into BSU for resources, et cetera. So I totally understand both points of views, MJ, as well as, your explanation, Tony. So thank you so much for at least confirming that we do have a great standing with them.
Mhm.
And if they're giving us the gift, it's a gift. Let's separate the gift from, from any other services that that the town provides or collaborates with.
All right, thank you. Well said. Any other thoughts, comments? On the overarching, MJ, I'm right with you. But, Rig makes the good point too, that this is the gift. The town services that it's designated for, just the money. And, I would love to see, this was higher. But it is what it is right now. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? I
No,
mean, I would like again to see the town manager, engage with the university and see if, we can increase this gift for next year.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of people made a lot of good points, and I think the bottom line is, as long as we have a good relationship with them, if and when Michael does need additional resources, the opportunity is there to go back and have that conversation. If and when the school expands or whatever, I do think that relationship's there, and I think that's what Tony was saying. So, as long as the relationship stays healthy, and we're not putting too many resources into Bridgewater State, I always welcome a gift. So, for me, I would make a motion to accept the gift.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Josh, if we could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and thank you for, the good conversation around an important issue that is well discussed in town here. So thank you for all the questions and the smart comments on that issue. All right, moving on to our next order of business, which is FY 23-029, general fund transfer order. Tony.
Hey, Nathan and Tony, sorry to interrupt. And I'm sorry, I have no issues with the motion that we just approved. Can you just remind me again, like what the amount of the gifts have been in the past couple of years? I just was trying to write some notes and.
Tony, do you have that in front of you by any chance?
Yeah, I have in 19 due to COVID, clearly we didn't get anything. There was about 100, almost 120,000 in FY 20. I think that was to make up for the FY 19. And I do stand corrected. I have to go back further. My records don't go back further than that. I think we did have another low year, 36, about a $60,000 2018 and 2017. That's as far back as my records I can get in front of me. So the big year that I had in my mind, so I can clarify it, was for 2 years, and that was 19 and 20 combined, and that's why the number was high for FY 20.
Okay.
Life to date on my records, which goes back to let me just get that for you. Life to date through 2017 is 160,000 in total in this particular fund. So let me multiply that times 3. That's 320, 425, 480. We've gotten $480,000 since 2000 and what did I say? 16.
Sorry, can you?
480,000 since 2016.
Okay, thanks so much.
Sorry for that, my
480
confusion.
$480,000 since 2016.
Yep.
All right, I made a note myself. Thank you, Tony.
And some highs and some lows.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so back to -029, general fund transfer order. Tony.
Succinctly, there's two major components that are being funded. So if we look at the use of funds, one thing, given the changes that have occurred over the last couple of years with individuals leaving, coming on board and restructuring with some training offices in the fire department, as well as taking into consideration, and I'll go into a little further if you'd like, the impact on some of our overtime lines and our holiday pay lines. We did a recalculation of the budget that was approved for FY23. And we felt that we didn't have enough to get us through the end of the year. So we're making this transfer at this time to fund $90,000 of fire line items. You can see that in the overtime line 513000 and in the 514000, which is holiday pay, and the 519003, which is training pay. And those three line items are being funded to meet what we feel is the requirement of all the changes that have occurred in that operation. So that's where the 90,000 is coming from, the receipts reserved for appropriation ambulance. The 30,000 coming out of highway will allow us, because we finally hired late last year after the budget was set, a full-time superintendent for the park and recreation. That position is no longer split in overseeing the golf course, because we have sourced that out from a management company. And in doing so, once the new superintendent for the parks and recreation came on board, we evaluated salaries and all the expense line items, and we wanted to make sure we made the adjustment so that operation could be fully funded for the end of through the end of this calendar fiscal year, excuse me. And those are the line items, a series of expense line items and salary line items. And that is the $120,000 in total, 30,000 from the highway salaries for park and rec, 90,000 for fire department salaries and expenses. And that's what's before you. So one's being transferred from a line item that has those monies. One's being transferred from the ambulance receipts reserve where we have monies, and they're going into those budgets.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Any questions, comments? Tony? Really kind of just basic housekeeping here.
Yeah, we usually don't do it in the fall, but this year we want to make sure that we got this set, and the fire chief and the superintendent of the Parks and Rec would know what they had before them for funds to get through the next 9 months.
I like it. All right, any questions, comments?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ.
Second.
Second.
Second from Rig, I guess. Yep. Josh,
Yeah.
if you could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. FY last order of business for this evening, FY 23-030, transfer order sewer enterprise fund. The explanation is pretty succinct there. This transfer from retained earnings will be necessary to fund the fiscal year 2023 sewer enterprise operations based on the current sewer revenue estimates. Tony, how much is in the sewer enterprise retained earnings fund?
Second. The certified fund balance as the end of last year for the retained earnings was. We had a balance of $3 million in retained earnings. Excuse me, 2,424,000, 3 million, we made some other minor adjustments in our accounting, but as of 6/30 it was 2,000,004.
2,000,004 in balance. in
Yep.
funds. Okay, thank you.
And so all this is doing is changing the funding source. The total appropriation for the fund is the same. That's what the second document explains. That was the
Yeah.
total. We're using retained earnings and not sewer revenue to offset the appropriation. So the remaining balance is paid from sewer revenue, and this is the balance being paid from retained earnings to fund the FY23 operating budget.
And this will help hold down the rate cost to users, Tony, a part of the plan?
Yeah, especially there were some capital items that were appropriated in their operating budget, so that will help offset those. And in fact, yes, it will allow us to delay any rate increase in the sewer operation. That rate increase will probably be presented for the new sewer treatment plant, or the major upgrade, I should say, to the sewer treatment plant sometime next May.
Okay, thank you.
Tony, quick question.
Mhm.
And I could be off here, but I don't remember us having to use retained earnings to help support this fund in the past. Like, this is,
Mhm.
we've done it with the golf course, right? That was kind of a sore spot in the past. The past is the past, not bringing off the golf course because I don't want to go off topic by any means. But
Mhm.
what exactly is causing this miss? Is it in fact the new building and the new water tower, or just
Yeah.
help me understand
Sure.
what's causing this miss?
So this year we put in almost 300,000 of capital inside the operating budget. $250,000 was to do a sewer study. In retrospect, we didn't have the revenues coming in. We thought we'd have enough to offset those additional costs. So if you take them out of the equation, you're really only talking about $100,000. The revenue for sewer is, I think everyone knows that water usage determines sewer bills, right? Sewer revenue. It's the way we measure the 100 cubic feet, whether it's be of the sewer or water. And we know what this summer presented as it relates to the drought. And whenever there's a restriction on water use, you're going to see a hit on your sewer revenue as well as your water revenue. So the additional monies, we probably could have pushed our revenues for the DOR to the limit, but I didn't want it to become an issue with them questioning whether or not we felt we could meet the revenue numbers for FY23. So this was another just conservative approach to make sure that this would get approved without question by the Department of Revenue. And also knowing that we're going to be looking at the rates next May.
Perfect. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Okay, great question, Eric. Thank you. Anybody else? Not hearing anything, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ.
Second, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Josh, if we could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank
Hey,
you.
Nate, before we close, you mind if I have a minute?
Yeah, go right ahead, Rick.
Thank you. Folks, I just wanted to just let you guys know that I've decided to pull papers to also put my name in the race for one of the seats for town council. I'm super excited for some wonderful things that I anticipate will come for our town. You guys may know or may have heard, obviously, I started a youth program, which is a youth NFL flag football program in town, in which we teach young people starting from the age of 5 up to high school, about 11th grade in high school, about leadership and using sports, flag football as a catalyst for that. It's a huge undertaking, that involves a lot of volunteers, my staff, referees, just a number of people. So obviously, youth programming and, developing young people is something that is dear and near to me. So I want to see more of that. I want to see more initiatives that involves, really developing our young people. So anyways, I just wanted to make you guys aware that I am going to be in the race. My flag football season ends this Saturday. So once it's done, and feel free to come by. Saturday's Championship Saturday. You guys can get a chance to see how awesome these young people are. Some of them might even be your nieces and nephews, if not your children, that I'm not aware of. But these are some of the things that are dear and near to me, with respect to families and children. So anyways, just letting you guys know my current disposition.
All right, thank you, Rig, very much. It seems like the Finance Committee is turning out to be a launching pad for greater political ambitions, and that's awesome. I think we have great members on this committee, and the town could certainly use the leadership. And I know many of us can echo what you said about youth sports and how important they are to youth in this town. I know that Susie and Chris, right, and Eric, myself, Lee Bean, all of us have been quite active in youth sports in this town, different sports.
Yeah.
I can't speak for MJ. So good luck, and we hope the best for you, Rig. So you'll be resigning from the Finance Committee?
I have not had the conversation with Mary Lee yet. I just need to understand how that
Okay.
works.
Well, you know what? You and I can have a conversation about that offline when the time comes. Then, Rig, we don't have to discuss it right now.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you, Rig. Real quick, the next date for our meeting, since we missed, so it'd actually be next week, the 16th. Is that correct, Josh?
Yeah, but I would recommend the town council has back-to-back meetings. So they have a meeting on the 15th, and then they're going to have a meeting on the 22nd.
Okay.
So what I was planning for the finance committee was to meet on the 30th. So that
That
way you
makes-
could take up everything.
That makes sense to me. The 23rd, that's Thanksgiving, the long weekend. That's a really tough time to get people together. So
Right.
let's look to November 30th. Does that make sense to everybody?
Does.
Works for me.
All right. And just
I
real
may or
quick-
may not make that, just as a heads up.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And just, as we're talking about the recreation department, I'd just like to say a little something about Charlie Simon. He was the head of the park and recreation here in town, the golf course. He passed away suddenly, just in the recent past. He was a man that did a lot of stuff for this town, way above and beyond what his actual, post was or his job description was in this town here. So I just like to, say a little remembrance for Charlie here in this meeting. And
I second that. That's really good of you to mention that. He was really, really loved by a lot of folks in this community.
And for me, having worked directly with him, seeing him a lot coming up to the town manager's office when I worked with Michael and Kim directly, I thoroughly enjoyed talking with Charlie, always learning stuff from the golf course. Like when we decided to get goats to clean up part of the course by, trimming the grass, which I thought was like this craziest idea, but he explained all of it to me and I was like, I'm on board with that. And, he was just one of those personable individuals who was just always like happy to be at work, talking with the fellow employees, our coworkers, just if someone needed something, he was there to help on it. If someone had a question, he could answer it. If he didn't have the answer, he'd get back to you as soon as he could. And I'll tell you right now, other than Ron Adams, rest his soul, Charlie was the only other person I know who was basically synonymous with Old Scotland golf links. And, when he retired earlier, I said his, his skills and knowledge going with him was gonna be a loss to the community, but now, with him now gone, his entire presence is a loss to our community, and I would say he was a good friend, and he will be deeply missed, and I certainly hope, I may actually reach out to the town manager on this. I would personally like to see something in town be, presented in his memory, either to his family or to the community in general. Honestly, I'd love to see the clubhouse be named after him in memoriam. But that's a discussion for a different day, and hopefully if that ends up being a financial matter, I would enthusiastically vote to have something be spent to remember Charlie by, because he was just a really good guy, and, we deserve to have something in place to remember him by on that.
Yeah, MJ, well said. All right, anybody else? Any thoughts, comments, questions? If not, we'll do that favorite of all motions.
Motion to adjourn, Eric.
Thank you,
Second.
Eric.
Second, Susie.
Thank you, Susie. All right, Josh, if you could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting's adjourned.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Take care.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Guys.